We made it. We survived Valentine's Day. We survived President's Day. We're here.
We did make it. Yes. It's good to see you, Jill. I just
Good to
got
see
in
you too.
from a little trip. I'm back and be heading out the door here again in the next couple of days. And yeah, we're both keeping busy. There's been a lot happening for you in particular. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Brett's hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll let him when he jumps in the chat. He can explain his situation a little bit better. He's on the he's on the recovery. He's mending from some dental work. So
Man, oh man. I
yeah,
remember I had to do that last year and it was not fun.
I offered to do it. But
I mean, everyone hates the dentist. I just don't know why they don't knock you out with laughing gas as just like this is what we do. You don't have to deal with this here. You don't hear the sound or eat the frickin' bubblegum fluoride. Just knock us the F out and get it over with. We don't want to deal with it. Take care of your teeth though, because like right, like you can have major problems, health problems if you don't take care of your teeth. And you don't want to have like inflammation or anything like that. It's not
yeah.
like that, right?
Well, he had I'll give like the short
You may not want to talk about that. Sorry, Brett. He's
everybody,
like,
let's
shut
go
the
on a
come
journey
on.
through Brett's mouth.
Right. It's like a scene out of Little Shop of Horrors. Was it that good? With
They
Bill
knocked him
Murray.
out. They knocked him out, and so much so on the drive home yesterday
Yeah.
from the dentist, he seemed very lucid, but he didn't remember anything. Like,
Oh, could you have got a TikTok out of this?
oh, I
Could it have been?
I missed my opportunity. And even today he was like, "Oh, did you go to the post office and mail that
Yeah.
package?" I was like, "Yeah, you demanded I did it yesterday after the dentist." And I was worried that he would wander out of the car and walk through the
Demanded.
parking lot. So, no, I mean, he went in at 7 a.m. and then he woke up around 2 o'clock on the couch. He's like, "What is going on?" So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad he's doing better. I mean,
Yeah.
I just yeah, I feel for the guy. And Mike too. Mike's in recovery. So the Flash, Jill, take care of yourself. You can't be a nurse for everybody, and you definitely can't be a nurse if you're down and out. So
No, yeah, Mike and Brett were on the phone. So yeah, everyone, not only did Brett have dental surgery, Mike is still recovering from he had pretty major surgery on his foot. So the two of them were lamenting today on the phone. I was just like, you guys are your own. Um, but yeah, everyone's healing. I guess, it's good we have a little bit of downtime before things really ramp up again. We have a pretty strong push to finish Flash 3 and Voices in the Wilderness. So we are hyper
mhm.
focused and ready
We
to.
need a hand gesture for Flash 3. So what do we do? Like Flash 3? Is this a Flash? Flash 3. I like it. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Um oh, if anybody gets a chance, well no, this is totally random. I'll get into that later. We'll go back to that. We'll talk about that later. What were you going to say, Jill?
Nothing. I was pulling up the chat
Okay. Okay.
to see if Brett was telling me to shut up.
uh, I don't think I have Cooper hair on me here. He's never hopped on this jacket here. I want to make sure that I wear my Sunday best. I've actually been wearing the same uniform for the last 2.5 days here. So this is the first time T Dog has I'm a little disheveled, but I'm maybe that's the way they want me. Maybe they want a disheveled T Dog. Is that what
we
they
got
want?
to we got to, try out different things and see how people respond. So,
Right. Yeah. So there's some stuff on the agenda here. What do you want to get into first? Because there was so there was a major drop, like biggest drop for me personally since Franzoni. This was like there was a bomb drop. Henry Franzoni dropped 3 bombs in total, 2 big bombs. This was in the same vein.
What are we
The one
talking about?
well, the video that dropped, the one that
Oh,
just came out. Yeah, I was giving you I was laying you up here for the takeaway on Mr. Hynek.
yeah. So that one's been in the works for a while. Originally, we were supposed to film with him gosh, was it last summer or last fall? And there was some scheduling complications, which happens. And it finally came together. We got the call, and he said, "Hey, I'm available next weekend." Or is something very, it was very short notice, and we jumped on it, drove down, flew Mike down, and made our way to sit down with Joel
Jo
Hynek.
right after the fires, mind you, so
Oh, the fires were
tell
going on. No, the fires
yeah,
were still in full effect.
yeah, so
Um,
this is an interview that almost didn't happen again,
yeah,
ever. Okay, so the what's that? Escape from LA? There's Escape from New York, Escape from LA.
Escape from New York.
It's literally like Mad Max country there. You're interviewing a huge get, Joel Hynek. Do you wanna talk about who Joel Hynek is? Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. So for if you're in the chat, if you follow the interviews we drop,
Mhm.
I'm sure most of you've seen it. It's we sat down with Joel Hynek, who is an Oscar-winning visual effects artist, and he is best known for creating the Predator effect in the movie Predator.
And what else? There's another movie
Oh,
that
he worked on the bullet time for The Matrix.
I mean, that's
And
yeah, that's
yeah, and he
huge.
got his Oscar. He won the Oscar for the work he did in What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Oh, and that movie is just so sad and surreal if you haven't seen that.
It's
But it's
gut-wrenching,
visually
yes.
effect. Yeah, like you're transported in that movie in a way that you're not in the other two. That's a total visual effect masterpiece.
Yeah, so and it just turns out by how the universe works, he is the son of Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who is, of course, known for Project Blue Book. Small world.
And co-star, I guess he has a guest appearance in Close Encounters of the Third Kind as the
Mhm.
well, you show it in the film, so you got permission to show Close Encounters. Can you that was shocking, like, you can show little snippets of movies.
You have to get into fair use law and stuff,
Yeah,
and there's a
but it
lot of things, like, it has to be used in a transformative way and blah, 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 blah. I didn't write a letter to Spielberg for a permission slip, but,
I mean,
maybe he would have said
here's
yes.
the okay, so I would imagine Joel Hynek, his dad was a consultant on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and so he has Spielberg's number, I would think. Joel Hynek, yeah, he could probably call up Steven Spielberg and ask him, a recipe for something. I don't know what these guys talk about if they're not talking about UFOs and special effects. But so Spielberg has a big movie coming out next year. We'll get into that at a different time,
Yeah.
but
I will
I'm
say this,
sure.
Tobe. I will say this. Brett did ask him about that. And Joel said that he made himself available as as a consultant, but he didn't get the call. So we'll see.
Oh, okay. Now say that again. Who made who
Joel let Spielberg's people know that he was available to work
available
as a
for
consultant,
on Close
on
Encounters?
disclosure. Yeah.
Oh, on the second film coming out, which the
Yeah.
working title is what?
Disclosure.
Because right now nobody knows what we're talking about. So
Oh,
Spielberg's next
sorry.
movie coming out next year is entitled Disclosure, and it's not a follow-up to I don't think it's a follow-up to Close Encounters. Um, but it is a UFO movie. So the point of this whole thing is that Joel Hynek could probably make a phone call and say, "Hey, I just talked to these Flash of Beauty people, man. This is wild footage. You want to see it?" And just like send Barb Shoop's cloaker footage to someone of that caliber. That's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Who knows? He may have sent it around to get feedback from other Oscar-winning visual effects artists. Very possible. But what fun! What fun to have him go through Barb's footage. And I have to say, let us know in the chat if you've watched the video. If you noticed how in the beginning he's very upfront, like, oh yeah, you can do, okay, wait a minute now. And as he's working his way through the video, by the end, he's very, I don't want to say unsettled, but he's perplexed. Like he's a little unsure of the confidence he had in the beginning about it, where there's definitely a shift trying to follow along. Uh,
Right.
yeah, so
So where Eric Bard from Skinwalker Ranch, who's
mhm.
on part 2 of A Flash of Beauty Paranormal Bigfoot, and he says, if I have one take to do this, and you want my reaction, here it comes. Is this what's happening with Joel? Is this the first time he's seeing this footage?
No, he had
Okay.
access to it before, so he could really analyze it.
Okay. Okay. So as you're filming him though, he starts off as pretty reluctant to say much other than, for less than $2,000 you could fake this if you're a pro, right? That's kind of how it starts.
Yeah, basically, and
Yeah.
it was based on, like, for him, for someone of his level and caliber of experience and expertise, it's easy for him to say, "Oh yeah, you could do this in a day or two and whatnot." But we all know the story. Barb was out there with her iPod Touch camera, not another cameraman. He even caught himself during the interview talking about, well, the camera person. He's like, "Wait, Barb had the camera." And so he's kind of like, oh, the plot thickens. But he's like, yeah, you'd have a couple days, you could do it in a couple days, like a day or two, and then you have to get back on the iPod shuffle. And then he remembered, he's like, wait a minute, no, they went in and watched it right afterwards. And then he was looking at the metadata. He's like, well, I mean, someone could go in and change it, but it all checks out. And I don't know
You know
who
what
would.
else is interesting about that? What you just explained forensically. Like, let's say that this was like a high crime and we wanted to prove Barb Shoop's innocence or guilt. I know for a fact that that iPhone probably counts how many steps you're doing, even an iPod Touch. And I bet there's data whether or not you walked at a pace, um, sat down. It probably recorded other things as well as far as metadata. So it wasn't just the picture, it's the whole story of what Barb's saying being tracked by a digital device that I bet if you had the right people could prove the proof, her innocence, let's say, because we all know Barb, and you could get a feeling from Joel that he was reading her body language, just like this is not the body language of someone out here to pull a fast one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he looked at the metadata, just the cursory metadata, not the real, like, we're going to open this thing up and go through it like a fine-tooth comb.
Mhm.
That's a different story. So that's fascinating. I mean, he must have been blown away, like he invented something that exists.
Well, he was surprised to hear people were still referencing that term
Hmm.
because I don't remember his exact verbiage, but he's like, "Yeah, the sequel wasn't, Predator 2 didn't
Performed
take
well.
as much as the first
Mm.
one, so, meh, that was that."
I didn't think Predator 2 was that bad myself. But I was a sucker for Danny Glover action flicks back then. So.
Well, who
Yeah.
isn't?
Um, so the Predator effect, the Predator phenomena, you've been witness to it. Brett has been witness to it. I don't. I've been in the company of people that have been witness to it. That's kind of like my lot in life. I've been in the company of people that have had extraordinary events. Um, and this is one of them that, you know, I don't know how you could ever get bored of this. Like, Barb, if you're listening, uh, you know, once is probably not enough. Although you didn't see the predator effect, did you, Barb? You saw little Blackie running down the forest grove there like a Fraggle. The thing looks like a little Fraggle to me, whatever this is here. It doesn't even look like a Bigfoot. To me, it looks spindly. It seems like it's some kind of like, I don't know, alien or something like that, like little tiny land spirit looking thing. But that's not what she saw. The
Hmm.
cloaked image is totally different. And we've been there. You guys filmed there. You saw just how kind of unassuming the spot was. It wasn't like the let's set up a shot. You know what I mean? Like Joel goes through like, okay, here's how you'd hoax it really good. You'd have to set it up. You'd have to get the people and pull the string and
And like Brett and I always say, I mean, even when we're working with extremely experienced, talented actors, you have to rehearse. It's the whole idea of you just come in and one hit wonder it.
mm-hmm,
Those are like once in a blue moon. And not only would Barb have to go in there and rehearse and orchestrate it, other people would be in on it too. And there's always someone that talks. There's always someone who wants credit or can't keep their mouth shut. And that wasn't the case.
but the big smoking gun is the metadata, and to fake that metadata is next to impossible given the chain of custody. And there's witnesses to the chain of custody, and the
Mhm.
likelihood of pulling off a hoax that good with that chain of custody so tight, it doesn't make any sense. So there's
Yeah.
some really bizarre if the glove don't fit kind of stuff. And so anyway, congratulations, Barb. If you didn't have a beer after watching that footage and toast the cloaker footage with, you know, some juvenile Sasquatch looking at you through the window, then you should have. So bravo to Mrs. Shoup and the troop.
And I just want to give everyone some background. So Brett and I went up to Tom Cantrell, a well-known researcher, an experiencer, author. He does these monthly, like, I guess, Bigfoot town halls, so to speak. And he invited us to come up, and Brett and I had a discussion ahead of time because we were like, well, what can we show them? What do we have on hand that we can share that's new? And Brett said, if Barb is there, we're going to show the video. And lo and behold, Barb walked in, and we were pretty stoked because we're just really eager for everyone to see it. And
Mm-hmm.
it was fun. It's always fun as a filmmaker uh, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to watch your work with an audience and hear them reacting. So that was a real treat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. You know, other people describe things that aren't physical looking. Like Barb described seeing and filming something that looks like it has head and shoulders, perhaps the outline of such. And it was fascinating to hear Joel describe how it never existed, and he basically had to reinvent the wheel with, I don't remember what he said, like a black and white image of some kind.
Yeah.
So that was really cool if you're nerding out on special effects stuff. But people do see images of things that are cloaked that look like almost like those pool noodle guys that swing at car lots that blow up with air and wave around. People describe this, and this was one of the things that happened to Daryl Adams at the Al Moon, is that he did film something that seemed like this weird kind of corally pool noodle thing that was bending light around it. And this has also been described out in Salt Fork State Park by some hikers. They actually got some really interesting footage. I'll have to find it.
Mm.
But so what is that? You know, what are we dealing with here? Because it's not fully, you know, human or fully some kind of cryptid. You know, I don't know what we're dealing with as far as the phenomena. Maybe it's an opening presenting itself. Um, any thoughts?
Well, as Eric Bard said, after he fully watched Barb's footage, became entranced with it. He suggested it might be an avatar
Oh,
that
yeah.
is being used.
Right.
So I don't know how that works. Like you spin the big wheel and decide what you want to appear as. Imagine the price is right wheel, like
Oh, nice.
alien, alien, Bigfoot. So ta-da.
I love it.
Yeah, so
So
that was, I just want to say, and Joel was so generous with his time and letting us take over his office. We showed up with all the gear, so we don't travel light when we're on the
mhm.
road. So yeah, just what a nice guy. And I think I was under the impression I left with was that he hadn't really given Bigfoot too much thought until now. And
Mhm.
as we were leaving, we were talking about some of the other experiences people report. Uh, you could see kind of the wheels turning, like, okay, here's a rabbit hole I was not
Mhm.
ready to go down.
Well, it just makes you wonder, one of the questions we had for him, and I think he answered on film, is that, the predator effect didn't come from dad, and that was my initial I was insane. Well, the first of all, the whole Joel Hynek lead came from this live stream, I believe, right, Brett? Someone wrote something in a comment, and that led to this interview because of that comment. I think that's the chain of custody. I don't know who made that comment, and if I got the story right, Brett just mentioned it, but I remember seeing something fly past us in the comments here. But as soon as we found out that that was a possibility, of course, I was thinking that Daddy came home with some crazy stories, and one of them would be, hey, witnesses describe not only seeing grays or whatever, but this avatar effect, this shifting of light, and then they phase in this cloaking effect. Not necessarily Bigfoot related, but phenomena related. But he said no, that's not it. Like he came up with it right on his own.
Well, yeah, this, and I would be curious. You know what I'm going to do once we wrap up? I'm going to track down the script and see how the predator is described, to see
Played
how
by
the
Jean, I
screenwriter.
think originally played by Jean-Claude Van Damme in a bright red unitard. I don't know if he mentioned that, but I think that might have been Van Damme's first
Oh,
American
funny.
film. Yeah.
Funny, but no, I'm really curious about how the writer described it, because he would have been interpreting based on what was in the script.
Yeah. And Brett's agreeing, but it was a comment left on a video on YouTube. So
Oh.
interesting. Okay.
And I just want to jump in because I saw someone join the chat from Australia. After Barb's initial video came out, and we also did the additional cloaker breakdown, uh, someone from Australia sent us an incredible video that just, it's, you guys, what Bar, and you guys already know this, but people are seeing this everywhere. What Barb saw, as amazing as it is, it's not a it's not a one-off. I mean, other people are seeing these things. I mean, even going back to what Missing 411 The Hunted, the
Mm-hmm.
woman who's hunting in the deer stand, who saw what she
Mm-hmm.
compared to the predator moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And Scott Carpenter, I think Scott Carpenter was one that really um, pioneered the GoPro in the backpack, and was recording what he felt were Nephilim
Mm.
cloaking in and out. That's where his theory was. Scott's no longer with us, but you can find his videos, I'm sure, online, and he's getting some pretty strange stuff going on regarding cloaking giants, we'll call them. There's some other footage out there too with cloaking images. There's one of these dogs going insanely aggressive uh, at something in the brush, and there's like this little wicker. It's probably like in Vietnam or something like that. There's like this little stick fence that the dogs are trying to get through, and then all of a sudden, in the broad daylight, you see the brush explode all around as though something bum rushes the dogs, but there's nothing there. Um, it's incredible footage. So it is a cross uh, pollination of effect going on with this Bigfoot stuff and cloaking.
I was just sent a text with a lead on a sighting that I'm going to have to follow up on. Not necessarily big, maybe a Bigfoot connection, but I might be going to my hometown to follow up on a hot lead. I just had texted to me, so
Okay.
if I look distracted, that's what just happened.
That's funny because someone said something to me recently about Seaside and Astoria in the last 72 hours, and I don't remember what it was. It might be connected to what you're looking at.
Is it about this wonderful documentary being filmed down there called Taming the Mouth about the jetty restoration project?
When it should be. Is that the name of the film?
Taming the mouth of the Columbia.
Okay, I love it. This is so good. Never mind. Okay, cool. Click a tad ape cat. Let's talk about it. All right, so
Where
you
do we
want to
go
talk
from
about
here?
you want to talk about the Geyser Grand?
Yes, you guys, Bigfoot weekend in Baker City is coming up fast.
Let's go.
Let's pull it up.
There we go.
Alrighty, March 14th through the 16th. So, look, Eastern Oregon is amazing. If you haven't been to Baker City and that whole region, it's a trip it's worth. Stop what you're doing and drive to Eastern Oregon right now and experience the Geyser Grand Hotel. It's a historic hotel. We've experienced some insane haunted activity at the hotel. And I try, I keep mentioning this video footage that we have, and I think what Brett sent you didn't have the filter on it, or the
Mhm.
exposure wasn't tweaked, so you can't see it clearly.
Well, Brett,
So
we have the footage here. Do you want we can show it, but I had to put it through OBS because it wasn't rendering and downloading. So it's a secondary from like the 14-minute mark to the 25-second mark. And I think you said it was the 18-second mark. I meant seconds. And Jill and I couldn't see it. Should we play it and maybe Brett can help us walk through it or what?
I mean, I'll wait for Brett to respond, because if we couldn't see it, it's all I remember is, like, you can definitely see on the footage when the temperature dips down a degree and then this blob thing moves across in
The
front of
bed.
the camera, like at the foot of the bed. But I think he really, like, we noticed it. We're like, what set off the camera? And he adjusted something. Okay, he's saying yes. So,
Okay, so here we'll go
okay.
ahead and bring it up here now. Excuse the OBS. I'll fast forward it here.
So this is at the Geyser Grand Hotel. Excuse the mess. We're like passed out.
Now let's pause it here. So Brett, we're at the 6-second mark here, and I believe you said 18 seconds. So it doesn't go to 45 seconds, but we'll play it anyway. Here we coming to 7 seconds. We're looking down here at the bottom, 10 seconds, 11, 12. And where do we look? Where do we see this?
Kind of look at the foot of the bed.
Was it right
Yeah,
there, Brett, and we sneezed and we missed it? Because I can go back. I'm gonna go back. We're at the beginning here.
I
All right.
mean, we were able to, we pinpointed when the temp, because we're like, well, what set off the camera? Because we were like completely passed out.
Oh, so this is motion censored.
Yeah, it's motion censored, but we were, I mean, Brett can chime in more about that, but like, it's one of those ones where when it's triggered, it like records an extra second ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah.
The bottom of the picture frame and the top of the headboard. Oh, I was way off. Okay.
You might have to play it a few times to see it. Okay, isn't that always the case? Let's see it play again. Okay.
So this is the cupola suite, by the way. Very okay. So yeah, we're looking between the photo and the headboard. But yeah, Brett, I think when you
Oh, wait, I just saw something. Watch by the okay, so hold on a second here. I think I just saw something. Let me start over here.
so
Hold
yeah,
on.
we tweak the exposure um like in our house to really amplify it.
Okay, let me start it over here. I thought I saw something by that Indian painting, or cowboy painting on the wall to the right of the frame, up here.
Now,
Would that?
this is the same room where I sat up in bed because I heard someone walk. I thought it was Brett walking around the bed
Mhm.
and stopped at the corner. I sat up expecting to see him. There's nothing there. And I was like, I know I heard footsteps.
Right.
And so then I kind of slumped down. I was like, oh no. I slumped down in bed and pulled the cover up over my head as all mature adults do. And then something sat on the edge of the bed, like you felt it weighted
Oh,
down.
like wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh no. Such a terrible feeling. But then it was this overwhelming smell of roses, like rose water. And I was like,
Oh.
if this were something bad, it would not smell so delightful. And then it was the following night, Brett woke up because something was tapping on his shoulder.
Oh, really?
He thought it was me and I was passed
Yeah.
out. And he was like, "That was weird. I'm gonna go splash water on my face." And when he got up, he said he walked through what felt like a wall of cold sadness. Like he woke me up, like he was shaking. He's just like, he's like, I just walked through something.
Now
Okay.
that's interesting because this is what witnesses are describing with craft retrieval, is that they have these sudden waves of emotion as though they're being, I don't know, I'm thinking of Barber with the egg right now, the Nanu. He was saying that it almost felt like it was a female entity, like a mother kind of energy coming off of this egg. And other people describing this kind of stuff with apparitions. I've heard this kind of stuff with Sasquatch too, just like a wave of emotion, not just sickness, not just surprise, but a wave of emotion.
Yeah, he said he felt like he got hit with, is as if the spirit was just like, here,
Mm,
feel all my pain, and it was just projected on him. Um,
well,
so if you want to experience sadness and spiritual harassment,
that's the
I'm
way to
just kidding.
go.
But seriously, there's so much cool stuff at that hotel, and there's a
Mm,
historic tour going on Saturday as well. So Friday nights are the movies. Sunday it's kind of like a panel wrap up, just kind of recapping everything. But Saturday is the day where we have all the speakers. There's a VIP dinner. I think that's mentioned more on the Geyser Grand website that you can sign up for. But yeah, so come out at the very least, come out
mm,
Saturday, and if you're inclined, spend the
mhm.
night at the hotel. See if bring your ghost hunting gear. See if anything talks to you in the room.
I mean, this is a pimped out palace. This is not going to, Motel 6. This is a historic, um, beautiful, what would you call it? Historic monument, really, to
Yeah,
this town.
yeah.
So, incredible honor to be invited to something like this. I'm really excited. I guess I should probably get busy right now with getting a vendor table set up. I haven't really even thought about that, so I better get on it.
Nor
Okay,
had I. Thank
I've
you
got
for
I've got to
reminding
get some
me.
stuff going. Um, okay, so Geyser Grand is coming up, and I will tell you, Jill. I don't know if you're on the motherboard like I am. All of the slides that you saw there on the left-hand side are no longer with us. So whatever, they say JPEGs are there, but I don't see any images anymore. So something happened to that. This is the second time that
Wait a
all of
minute. I see all this stuff. What do you mean?
oh, so somehow you're getting access to stuff I can't see. Okay. All right. Well, then we can maybe move forward with you controlling that part of the show because I can't. I can't see anything.
Okay, well, let's see
Um,
here. You just tell me what to do, and
well, in the order that they were received, we can get into different topics.
okay. Well, Should we shift gears and talk about episode 2 of
Uh, but
Olympic Strange Days and your Rich Germeau adventure, part 1?
yeah. Um, so yeah, first of all, there's some issues here technically working with a new camera. Let's just put it that way. And it's abundantly clear in this episode that there were some tech issues. So my apologies for people that noticed that because it was pretty noticeable. So we'll take care of that. We've already taken care of that. So the future episodes coming up, just stick with me, folks. It's all about heart, and then we'll get into my own version of beauty, which is more often than not just kind of clumsy. But um, our little boy, our boy turned into man, Rich Germeau, and myself went out into the woods together. If you don't know Rich, to know him is to love him. And he's got a lot of wild theories about what's going on in the world, but he's also one of these contactees that we talk about, right? Like he is an extended experiencer, a Sasquatch contactee, and insanely interested in being one to a degree. Like he backs away, the phenomena backs away with him, but sometimes he steps right into it, and the phenomena is like, "Oh, you're interested again? We're all coming in, boy." And so he's having one of those moments. It usually happens when he goes to a conference, and there's this kind of bleed off effect that happens when you go to a conference with the phenomena hitchhikers and stuff like that. So, in short, we talk about two different subjects at Rich's house. And Rich lives out in the middle of nowhere. You get a sense of that on camera. And he had a sighting of something coming home, I believe, from work one evening. And he described it, and he actually drew it over breakfast on a cocktail napkin of what he saw. But he described seeing a UFO, like a silvery, shimmery thing that was vertical in nature, and it looked like a tube, pretty much. Maybe a cloud. He didn't really know. He was skeptical about it because it was far away. And so then I have him draw it, and I wish I had the drawing readily available here, but he drew it, um, and then he showed the camera. It's just like, that's the ship from Arrival, right? Like if you've ever seen this movie, Arrival, with Jeremy Renner and I forget the other actress's name, but the
Amy
ship is
Adams?
Amy Adams. Yeah, the ship is very unique looking. The movie is very unique, isn't it, Jill? Like this is a very unique UFO story, and it's
Yeah,
about the imminent arrival of a non-human species, and the ship is very unique, and it's this floating looking tube, kind of like a white or black egg, if I remember correctly, just floating in the middle of a field. And it's just like 10 inches or, 2 feet off the ground, but it's like 400 feet long. And then everyone's befuddled. Well, this is what Rich was describing. So as he's, drawing this thing out on a cocktail napkin, I'm holding my GoPro, looking at my phone, going, that's a freaking ship from Arrival. And I know he's not like a sci-fi guy. Like he doesn't watch a lot of this BS. And so I set the phone down, and he goes, I've never seen that movie. And and it looked an awful lot like it. And so that was interesting to catch on camera.
yeah,
And so that was that meant a lot to me and to him to catch that moment. And then we got into the second part of the video, which is it's going to be kind of a saga, folks, with Rich, because there are a lot of rabbit holes. And Rich is a proponent of the flat Earth theory and the what would you call it? Like the dome theory, like we're encased inside of
the
a,
filament,
firmament.
filament.
Yeah, filament. Yes.
That's my theory.
Right. So, it's a biblical thing too, the firmament, right? It's debatable how this would work. But basically, what's the show with Jim Carrey where he's trapped inside of
The
a
Truman
dome?
Show.
Yes, it's a
Yeah,
Truman Show. Like these are all stage performances, the moon landing, all this stuff. And so Rich is a proponent of that. But he's also a proponent of one that I believe in, which is that there was this cataclysm that caused this major deluge, the flood. And on top of the flood was a catastrophic earth event, like a giant mud flood to be exact, which this gets into like Graham Hancock's theory, talking about this 13,000 year timeline where
Hmm.
things happen. And so, if that is true, then maybe there's stuff under the mud. And this gets into the mud flood theory. Ashley Stennett's here. She's the mud flood queen. You can chime in anytime. Hey, if Eugene, Oregon has the slug queen, Ashley, you're the mud flood queen. And so the mud flood, Tartaria, if you don't know about either one of these phenomena, I suggest going to watch John Levi on YouTube. It's the best YouTube show going about the mud flood. It's funny, it's sarcastic, it's very dry, it's very no frills about it. But he gets into specifics on these weird architectural anomalies that shouldn't exist circa 1700s. And this gets into Port Townsend, Washington. Rich is only about 10 minutes away from Port Townsend. And there are at least 3 buildings right now that have building dates incorrect by about 30 years or longer, and no architectural plans that we can readily access or find of the building of these castles, courthouses. Um, this gets into the Rothschilds and what they were doing there with the shipping company. And so we get into it and we find some weird stuff. So let's go through some of these slides here.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want me to go ahead and
yeah,
just
whatever you
okay?
see, I can't push anything. All right. So this is Mr. Eisenbeis. We talk a little bit about him in part 1, but we'll get more into it down the road. Mr. Eisenbeis was one of the founders of this town of Port Townsend, and he was also the one that built Manresa Castle, where I used to do a live show. Go to the next image.
Okay.
And we found a hidden statue of Mr. Eisenbeis at the post office on one of the columns. Now, it's such an unassuming portrait that is hidden kind of under one of the drain eaves in the back. You sneeze and you miss it kind of deal. What was interesting about it is that it's kind of a dead ringer for Eisenbeis, and he is facing, I believe, his wife on the other column. And then behind him directly appears to be some kind of trickster or land spirit. And it's an image of a weird looking creature with its tongue kind of sticking off to the side. Now, it's not the one that I showed you, Jill. It's a different being. But, you know, the architecture here is totally doable for the timeline. But there was this kind of, I guess you would call it providence and honor and respect for Eisenbeis. Let's go to the next picture.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Eisenbeis, let's talk about ghosts since we're going to the Grand Geyser. If you haven't heard of Manresa Castle and you don't know about the ghost of Manresa, everybody who's anybody that's a ghost hunter on any of these shows, they all go to Manresa at one time or another to experience the spirits there. And so, Rich and I went there, and we found out that there's a story of a child that was secretly buried with Mr. and Mrs. Eisenbeis. And they found the coffin when they were doing some remod. And we never knew that the story was true until this photograph came about. And this is Mr. Eisenbeis. His wife is not in the photo there that you can see off to the left. And this would be about the size of the child that I heard at 4 a.m. running down the hallway, opening up every hotel door and
Oh.
laughing and running. That's about the size of the kid's foot.
When did
So
that happen? When did you
that,
have that happen?
that happened on the 3rd floor, circa 2019.
Oh my gosh.
2019, yeah. So next slide, please. And so here it is, Manresa Castle. It used to be a monastery. It's been a couple different iterations. But again, you know, this has been coated with stucco. This is a brick building. In fact, a lot of the Tartaria stuff, the mud flood stuff that was supposedly here and adopted and basically presented as, hey, we just built this. It doesn't make a lot of sense because there wasn't the timeline to do it. And this is one of those buildings here that has been kind of done up. And the turret room is pretty present here. Ron Moorhead and Carrie actually stayed on the third floor during a Halloween party. And Ron dressed up as Gandalf, and Carrie dressed up as the elf from Lord of the Rings. So it was an awesome costume. It was so good. All right, next slide.
Okay.
And there's a lot of Freemason stuff going on everywhere, especially at the foundation of the of a town like this here. So we did, of course, what's really interesting is that the Freemason buildings generally are some of the least attractive buildings in town, unless they are like a celebrated hall. But generally speaking, they're very worn down, like from the 70s. Like it does not take on the air of like these were the master builders. I don't know why that is. This was a representation of it totally. So that's shocking. So I'd like to talk to a Mason why that is. Let's see the next
That's
slide.
a good point. Even like in Seaside, the Mason's Lodge is like
Yeah. Oh,
looks
yeah,
like
Davy Jones, I see you were at that same Halloween party. You remember that. Yeah, that was a wild time. Okay, let's see the next one. Next one.
okay. Okay.
That one snuck up on there. So we did go to the courthouse, and we were surprised by two land spirits on each side of one of the main doorways into this possible Tartarian build, this courthouse. Um, and these are, very interesting looking, what I would call land spirit looking tricksters. They have wild man aspects. They have these weird scoop marks on the cheeks that remind me of stuff that you would see like in Peru. If you've ever seen the megalithic structures down there, you will see that the megalithic stones have these weird protrusions, almost like wax has been pulled out, and then they have these weird kind of like scoops in them. And like Rich says on camera, it's like a 3D printer went in behind. How did they do this, right? Like, how did they
Mhm.
get this single piece of stone and actually get behind that leaf work there? So I'd love to hear a master builder talk about that. Let's see the next slide. Okay, and this one was pretty wild. This is hidden up in the same building in the top corner. Does that remind you of anything in particular, Jill? It's quite large, by the way. It's 3 feet by 3 feet.
Well, it looks like the carving that Rich gave us after we filmed with him actually is kind of this green man type
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
image.
it actually reminded me not only of that, but it reminded me of like the South Pacific. Um, is it the Maori people that do like the dance where they stick their tongue out and they kind of all dance together?
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Is that New Zealand?
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the families all get together, like at the airport when their kid comes back, and they all do it. It reminded me of that based upon like the palm frond looking stuff going on top.
Mm.
And that makes really no sense for little Port Townsend and Straits of Juan de Fuca. If it's a wild man, Brit, Rich thought it was a Sasquatch looking Tonaqua type thing. So I don't know. Let's see the next one. Yeah, there he is. We got a private tour to the clock tower. This is it was totally unplanned. And before we knew it, we were going, to a spot. They don't take a lot of people with this really nice gal. And it's just me, Rich, and my GoPro. And there was a lot of really great shots that I couldn't do because some of the audio was so bad I couldn't even find a way to work it around. So maybe we'll go back there someday and get the shots that I wanted to get. But this was the top of the clock tower here, and what the point of this was is not to say, hey, clock towers are mysterious, so therefore no one can invent it. It wasn't that at all. It was to go see where the oldest insane asylum was, or the sanatorium, which was insanely interesting based upon the size and the scope and the fact that it was torn down. And that's what you'll find again with a lot of this Tartaria stuff, is that these insanely beautiful, I'm talking about acres, Jill, acres of footage inside, square footage inside these mansions that were at the World's Fair. They tore all these buildings down for some random reason after these big events, after they spent supposedly, 2 or 3 years building these giant palatial mansions, and then they just tear them down. There's just really high active weirdness with the
Yeah,
excuses of this, and there's no building plans. There's no floor plan. There's no shipping manifest. It's just a real absence of provenance to
weird.
historic monuments like this. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, well, so now we're out of Tartaria. We're out of the mud flood here, and now we're in the mud. We're in the actual mud now. See how I
Good.
like to really go get it? What's the next photo here? I don't know if I'm ready for that one. Okay, well, let's just talk about mud floods in general here. So, in closing here, go to that last picture of Rich standing by the clock tower. Let's see if you can go to that one. So, the point being here is that, I don't know when we'll shoot the next film. There's some research that needs to be done on Rich's behalf as far as going to the Historical Society to confirm that there are no building plans or shipping manifest. But in the end of the video, we end up at the Rothschild house. And so if you don't know who the Rothschilds are, they come up time and time again as these kind of, they're financial wizards, right? Like they're very savvy financial wizards that have started town after town as far as shipping and receiving and banks. And they were present all over the Americas and everywhere else, including Port Townsend. And so we end up at the old house. And what was really fascinating is that the door has been sealed off. That I was just at a couple months ago filming, and on the door, the old ornate door, is a woven red cord that is attached to it. And I felt like that cord probably is super old. And it's, to me, I think it represents Kabbalah mysticism, which
Well,
would make sense.
the red strings, the bracelet, that's protection.
Yeah, so this is wrapped around the door there. So they have actually sealed this door off now with like plexiglass, and now has become like this outdoor museum piece, as to where before it was an entry point to go into the house. So I don't know what the overall plan is with I think you can take a tour there. But it's an interesting piece of land, and that's
Huh.
where we ended up with that one. So we'll
Well, we
see
need
where
to
it
get
goes.
inside. We need to get
We need to get
inside.
inside.
Let me
Okay.
in.
Is this interesting to folks? Do I want to go on? I don't know if I'm boring anybody. Are we okay?
I'm captivated, and
Okay,
that's
well,
all
that's
that
all I need.
matters.
Okay,
Yes,
so
the
that's
audience
that.
of Jill.
Yeah. So we're building a landscape here for Olympic Strange Days, and I want to thank everybody, including you and Brett, for putting this up on YouTube. I'm sorry things haven't gone smoothly here right out of the gate, but what we have coming up in the bank right now, the Strange bank that I have the episodes in, there's some really interesting videos coming up, and we sold out for Olympic Strange Days in 12 hours. So everybody that's in the chat, if you bought a ticket, thanks for doing that. You had to get up at midnight. So from 12 o'clock on Valentine's Day to 12 p.m., every ticket went. And so I think it was 48 hours last year. This time it was 12 hours. And there were more people invited, and it was still gone. So it's going to be all you guys in tents. That's awesome, because I had an opportunity for you to buy, a trailer spot, and nobody cared. I think one person is going to bring a trailer, but everybody else is just like, it's October. It's in a rainforest. It's by the coast. I'm going to be in a tent. I'm like, okay,
Perfect.
these are my peeps. So that's really rad. So check back at olympicstrangedays.com. and go check out the new website that's up there. There's a lot to see and do, including a new merch store. Nancy Fry, thank you. She's been working her tail off on getting patches to put on your stuff, like cool army style aviator patches and hoodies and stuff. So if you bought gear last year, this year is even cozier than last year. We made sure of it. So let's talk about what's going on as far as Bigfoot out here. Let's go to the next shot. Oh, we're getting close on time here.
Oh, we're fine. I mean,
We're okay. Can
we
we
can
go
do
over?
whatever. I just,
I don't
I
know if you
just
guys
figured
have a
people
heart
got
out.
bored of us around the hour mark. But if people are still listening, we can keep going.
Okay. Well, give me the thumbs up if you guys want to hear more. So I was on an adventure shooting B-roll, walking along one of the well-known rivers out here, and wandered across a sandbar that looked perfect to walk Cooper on. It was pretty icy and cold, but it was just a neat little river shot with a sandbar. And so I was like, oh, I'll go down there and do some narration and B-roll. And we walked back and we found this. Now, this is at night. There might be a couple of day shots. Let's see the next one.
Now, do you want to do? We skipped over a couple.
Well, let's start there.
Okay.
Because this is at night, but we did find this at day. Now, what's really fascinating about this is that it's in an area where I got a vocalization about less than a half mile away, and it's in an active area to where the Browns just did an interview up that way. I've talked to several people. We're going to talk, show some photos here from people that had something happen last night. And these sticks are driven down into the mud, what appeared to be more than 6 inches, and that is all frozen dirt. Let's go to the next picture.
Oh wait, is that what you want?
No, let's go back to the mud one. There we go.
Okay.
So what was interesting about that is that someone had, and I've seen this before at Sasquatch Contactee's house, where they take, let's just say that I think this is Sasquatch. They take not only mud, but they also take a combination and kind of weaponized mud with pitch, and they bind it to make like a tack welded anchor point for sticks. And then they plunge the sticks into the ground. In this case, they were like crosses or X's put on what are like these muddy stairs going up behind their house. Now, this was the same kind of deal, only they did mostly mud and rock and then shoved fern pieces in around it and kind of worked it as like a taffy or a glue on the anchor points. Now, any kid, anybody with hands could have done this. But I thought it was interesting for the fact that they took the time to like weave certain parts of the fern into the mud, and it was fresh like that. Those leaves, they're not more than a week old, I don't think. So if it was frozen when this happened, it's impossible for a human to do it without a really big tool. And so this is what happened up the Dungeness here. So what else do we have as far as images?
Okay, so that one we just saw that. This.
Well, yeah, so that's more of it here. It shows you mud that was used at the anchor point of a stick, and it's strange. Let's see the next one. So let's talk about Sandy Nelson and Kevin Carney and Mitch Matra. They're going to be at Olympic Strange Days. And Sandy and Kevin are probably the most well-seasoned Bigfoot researchers going right now. They do monthly events. They're at every conference. They're both retired. He's a retired salesman with Olympus Medical, and she's a retired nurse. And now they travel around and they go hog wild for maybe, 7, 8 days in the winter in the snow, sleeping in their trailer, their tent, and are into research. Sometimes they stay at a cabin. Now, that stick structure I just showed you, there's a cabin by it that you could rent. Well, they rented it. I had to take a trip, so I couldn't go play Bigfoot with him. I wish I could have, because last night, Mitch and Kevin, Sandy must have gone to bed. This is a rustic cabin from like the 40s. not a lot of flair going on. And they have this is like their fourth trip up that way, and they've each time they've been there, they either had a sighting of a Bigfoot by their car, or they've had weird stuff happen. Well, last night on the smoke deck, they're having a cigar or whatever, and this is what they heard by the pickup truck was like a. So they didn't know what it was. They assumed it was some action nearby. Didn't know it was by the pickup truck per se. I don't know if they went down to look, but this morning, this is what they saw by the backside of the pickup truck here. I think it's a fascinating image here because there's a finger involved with doing this, and it's not a traditional little thing that a passerby would do. It seems like it's some kind of symbology map. Um, Maybe it's symbolic of people in and around the house or the property.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you make of it, Jill?
Uh, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I think the four dots would represent four different beings or representation of four things, and
Hmm.
maybe that straight line is a territorial thing or a landscape of sorts.
Yeah, I think it's all up for grabs. The dots are evenly spaced and they're not different in size. There's a nook or a corner that seems like it might be purposely laid there. And one of them is at the edge of the corner. If it is a finger, it's probably just the tip. And it looks as though it made the line from right to left to me.
Mm.
So
In
I
Northwest
say that
Native
because yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Northwest Native Trackers with us, and in the chat, she noted the four dots being of a people. So, of anyone in the chat, I'm gonna listen to what she has to say. So,
Northwest, we haven't met yet, but we have some unfinished business to talk about one day.
we still need to coordinate, but that's
Yeah.
another conversation.
Okay. Well, you know how to find me. So this is insanely interesting to me. There were three people at the cabin. Now I've wandered into lifers. There's two people that live off this old road. One of the people are retired teachers in their 70s, and they lived at this cabin for 15 years back in the 70s before it was a rental with the state. And they were shocked that I told them that there were Bigfoot around there. I gave them, the Flash of Beauty card. They watched the doc, and they've never heard anything. This is, they seem totally earnest. They've lived there their whole life, less than 50 yards, 100 yards from this cabin,
Oh,
and
wow.
lived at the cabin. Not interested in Bigfoot, never heard of any stories out there. And so this is the way it is, though, is just like this phenomena is very personal for specific people. And the skeptics just got to get over it. And so, Sandy, Kevin, congratulations, Mitch. I don't know if you're in the chat or not, but um, I don't think that that's a doodle from, a kid at the Costco passing by.
No, and Northwest Native Tracker added on to what was said earlier. Uh, is the Mayan pattern for the number four? The seven image means person or a people. So I think she's talking about that swooping the
Yeah.
long line as a representation of people, and four
Mhm.
being the number. So
And if you're here, Daryl, you saw something kind of similar in the mud, with it looked like something drug a stick through the mud. It wasn't that per se, but it wasn't a typical stick Latin, as Jack would call it. But it seems much different when they're drawing than when they lay down sticks. It's not the same in Northwest. I'd love to hear what you say about that. It seems like it's a different type of message going on. Oh, here's Kevin here. So
yeah.
this he was there. He wrote, let's bring it up. This is Kevin's picture. Kevin writes, we were talking on the porch, night talking squatch, and multiple relays under the hood of the truck started clicking all at once. big WTF moment. Then the tapping noises began. Oh, it's sucking you in, Kevin. Okay. Um, and Kevin has been on a lot of camps in the Greenwater area near Barb's area. And so this clicking sound, Ashley can talk about it too, is something that they describe as click. Right? That's the name for the Bigfoot that does it out in Greenwater, click. And so it's a clicking sound, like, just a little clicking sound. So I don't know if that's what you're hearing or if you're hearing like tapping. So
Now,
that's,
Tobe, what about this audio? Can I pull that up?
well, let's talk about that. Okay. So last year, near this drawing, near this teepee structure, there's an abandoned orchard. And there used to be a cabin there that was flown out via helicopter when the Forest Service kicked this old poor guy off the property. Now, this cabin is a subject for another day, but it sounds like Theodore Roosevelt stayed there. Insanely interesting cabin now hidden in the woods, away from where this audio was captured. So last year, Olympic Strange Days 2024, I had a geocache or a treasure hunt, and the tickets were the prize, and they were hidden underneath the staircase to nowhere at this old abandoned orchard. I didn't know that there was a historic cabin that was there at one time. And I had no idea that there were property owners nearby in the middle of the forest, because this is owned by the Forest Service, or BLM, and you can readily walk on it. However, across the river is a plot of land owned by a family called Riondo, or something French Canadian sounding like that. Riondo. It's, if you have Onyx, which is a mapping system you can put on your phone to find out property rights in the middle of nowhere. This is the name that came up. Now, this is the stick structure. This is where this image was taken by Kevin within, a stone's throw. And this is where I caught this audio. So around 11:30 at night, hidden in the middle of the forest, not too far from where all this happened, I captured this audio. So go ahead. So it doesn't say specifically the name of the property owners that own that, but it's a weird kind of, it sounds close to that name to me, to the point where it's just like, is this thing trying to say the name of these property owners out here? Because it's 11:30 at night, and if you can see on spectrogram, the before and after of that language, there's monkey grunts and like caveman sounds. And it shouldn't be happening. I mean, it should be happening, but it's so rare to get audio of language like this, and it's not the first time I've gotten it. So what is that? There's a deeper mystery here. I welcome what people maybe hear. We'll play it one more time. Jill, tell me
Yeah.
what you hear.
Bear with me. Do-do.
Yeah. What do you hear, Jill?
It sounds like they're saying Michael.
And so you hear a name, Michael. Okay. Other people hear Elantro. I don't really hear the name Riondo anymore. It's close to having two consonants in it, like Riondo does. And it's interesting that the Riondos were even out there, because the French Canadians came across, like, Germo has an X at the end of it. And a lot of these French Canadians were told not to put an X at the end of their name because Americans wouldn't know what to do with it. And what are your names? Your name's
There.
Rich Jermux. You know what I mean? So They took the X off, so Riondo is with a U at the end and not an X. Um, and so I don't know. It's very bizarre. After that moment, something came in and walked around the recorder about 5 minutes long and just kind of circled it.
Hmm.
So interesting area. We'll go back there. I think that Kevin, you probably were taken to that spot in the last couple days, and it just warrants further investigation. Like all these things, more mysteries, Jill. More mysteries.
More mysteries.
What?
Let's go like that. How do we get
There.
rid of this? I don't want to look at this. My
Oh,
tech
here we go.
skills are
How about this? That. There you go. No.
okay. We'll stare at that.
Remove.
Discuss. Discuss amongst yourselves. So, well, awesome. It just sounds like there's so much going up on the Olympic Peninsula, and I'm not going to lie. I'm jealous that the Cascades are right here. The coastal mountain range is in our backyard, basically, and Brett and I really need to get out into the woods more often, and hopefully we can make some time for that. But
Yeah, because there's a place in Skamania County that's calling, and that
yes,
could almost be two different projects at once. So we need to make some time for that.
we do.
Now that the snow is melting, in particular.
Yeah, that's definitely on our list of things to talk about and get in the slate. We have from here on out, we're going strong. Like I said at the beginning of the live stream, we're focusing on finishing up Flash 3,
Mm-hmm.
having that ready. But the big push is for Voices in the Wilderness and finishing up Ron Moorhead's documentary that he reached out to us to make, gave us the exclusive. So that's in our crosshairs. That's the big one.
Yeah, and I may make some efforts to have some people that are closely tied to that documentary come down to Beaver, Washington, and hanging out with us for a couple of days. So stay tuned for those that have seen snips and bits and secret footage of this documentary. You've seen how amazing the story is, and it's only going to get crazier from here, especially with this Joel Hynek possibility. Because and I know, and Brett knows, something happened at the end of that documentary where he was looking at that metadata. He's like, this is going to stick with me for a while.
Yep. He's
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's all I got tonight, Jill. I'm headed out into the woods tomorrow night. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Go out and do something crazy and get it on camera. Pick up a recorder, go out in the woods, set it someplace weird. Take a jar of peanut butter with you and your favorite girl. And well, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind. Go
I've
have
got a
fun in the
story about
woods.
that. I've got a story about that. And someday that footage will come out. It was you know what I'm talking about, right? You've
Wait,
heard
wait.
this story.
What is that one?
Okay, you guys. So I'll just tell this little story and then we'll wrap up. You've all been good sports. So when we first started A Flash of Beauty
Yeah.
Part 1, I don't even know if it was called A Flash of Beauty yet, but we had just filmed with you and Daryl. And
Uh-huh.
Daryl's like, this is where I smear peanut butter all over the trees. And we're like, oh, fascinating. So we were up near, oh gosh, was it near Detroit Lake? Brett, jump in and help me out here where it was. Is kind of it all got burned during that big fire in 2020. But we were up at some remote campsite and Mike, so I went with Mike and we're like going to get B-roll of me kind of like talking about like what Daryl does, like smearing peanut butter on the tree and we'll see if anything comes in. But I'm seriously allergic to peanut butter. So I have this like long, like glove on up to my elbow.
Like Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs gloves.
And so I was a tub of peanut butter and I was smearing it all over the tree. So peanut butter all up is like a purple glove or something, and Mike's
Right.
filming. It's just ridiculous. But then we're headed back, and Brett's waiting for us, and we have like camping chairs set up. We have a fire going because it's about dusk. Brett's smoking a cigar. He's got
Of
a cigar
course.
hanging out of his mouth.
Backwoods. Let's get it straight.
It's
Not
a
just any.
backwoods,
Yeah.
yes. And here come headlights. We must
Oh
have
no.
taken someone's like spot. So this truck comes up. You can see a guy driving and some woman in the passenger seat. I have this glove on. This is covered with peanut butter. And here comes Mike with the camera. We're crawling out of the woods. And Brett's is there with a cigar and kind of gives like the friendly wave. And these people threw it in reverse so fast. And they were gone. We got to find that footage.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
That is
So
so
good.
crazy. I love that. That is so nuts. Oh, wow.
And those people are probably telling that. So like, we ran into this campsite and we don't know what was going on, but.
I'm so not saying what I want to say right now. That's too good. The Mike Rowe analogy is go look it up.
But on that note, that's
yeah, way to end the show. I like it.
And Jenny Larson, I saw you in the chat. I want to thank you for this weekend up at Tom Cantrell's, bringing all these wonderful gifts of coffee, wine, and Marionberry pie.
Oh my gosh, Jenny!
The trifecta of awesomeness.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to get Jenny on camera. She lives on Whidbey Island, a strange island, right? Oh. And she's got some stories, so I'm gonna hold you to it there, Jen.
Okay, we're coming for you.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you in the trees, y'all.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for coming in.
Stick around for a second, Jill.